block glitch is...
Okay, we're gonna be watching my Minecraft world is deleting itself. Hopefully that's not that scary, brother. I know how Wi-Fi's actually work his brain on. I mean, I know how Wi-Fi's narrates now, so I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna be scared of his video no more. I'm well prepared.
Weird missing block glitch is the first
What do you
of
mean?
many videos uploaded to a channel called Nights. The channel is sparse, no profile picture, a blank banner, and only these 8 videos. But
See, they're
these
always videos, bro. The hell?
Videos of a player haunted by a world that is deleting itself. A world that holds secrets into one of the strangest stories the internet has ever seen. And the only way to solve it is to watch the first video, where it seems like whoever we're watching is giving us a lay of the land, showing us around their Minecraft world. We catch a glimpse of their house and a small castle off to the side, and then something a bit odd. If you blink, you might miss it, but take a look
blinking
at this
so
scenery.
fast
In
right
the
now.
distance, there is a single tree with only one leaf.
I'd like
we
to
have
miss
no
it as
reason
much
to
as
believe this
possible.
isn't just man-made, but it feels weird, especially considering all the normal trees around it. But this is hardly the strangest part of the video. As our protagonist keeps walking, he runs into this, a gaping chunk of void. This hole extends all the way to bedrock, and even stranger, all around it, our main character runs into some half cut down trees. Again, these could have been man-made, but why? Why not mine the full tree, and why leave it like this? Our player hesitantly goes down into the chunk, and I guess after being spooked, heads back to the surface only to find that a giant hole has now appeared in front of their house.
Amazing.
They freak out, and the video ends. This hole wasn't there before, and what caused it is completely unknown, but clearly our character was
It's
spooked,
just
leaving
water,
the world
huh?
almost immediately. They didn't do this to their world, so
Why are they not scared of that?
What did? There are a few more things about this video though, that I
wouldn't.
didn't point out at
Jesus,
first.
like-
For one, on the walk back to the house, our main character encounters a tree with a missing block, but judging by how he reacts, filling the gap, we can assume that he wouldn't leave a tree like this, and this also wasn't him. Just another weird oddity of blocks seemingly disappearing in this world. Another thing that's strange is the lack of bedrock. Both of the holes we've seen so far have had
What is
no
a bedrock,
at the
though?
bottom. For
Like
some reason, this world lacks a foundation.
The
But
very,
finally, we can
very
get some concrete
bottom
info
layer
about what's
of the
going on by
Minecraft.
looking at the description. Weird missing
brown,
blocks in mine and Danny's world. Not sure if this is something that just happens, but I thought I'd put it here and see if anyone knows. Mason Knight 77. Now we have a name for whoever runs this channel, Mason, and we get confirmation that he doesn't know what's going on here either. We're also introduced to someone named Danny. Apparently, he shared this world with Mason, but we're still totally in the dark about what's going on and why holes into the void are appearing all over this world. For that, we have to watch video number 2. The video It Gets Worse leaves little to the imagination about what's to come. Mason leaves his house again, and we can see that 2 new holes have formed in his world. One in the
hole am
far
I even
corner,
watching,
and
bro?
one eating up part of the castle. Mason looks around and peers down the
Goddamn! So
He's
many
probably
holes!
scared
This
and
time it's
confused.
larger!
Yet again, there's no bedrock to be seen. But as he approaches the hole, we notice
hell?
something odd. There's no leaves on this tree. This tree isn't caught in any chunk errors, but for some reason, half its leaves are totally gone, just like the tree we saw in episode 1. And not to mention, this time there are strange holes dug into the ground below it. For some unknown reason, more and more blocks are slowly disappearing from this world, and Mason is trapped inside.
Bozo.
Mason then
Brother, you
heads to the
can
castle
log
and
out,
begins to repair
honestly.
the ground and then the castle itself. The video cuts to Mason getting more materials from his chest before heading back
There are
to
no
continue
such
the
things as
repairs.
numbers.
He finishes repairing
Bro,
the
log
castle,
off the
but
game.
as he turns around, he sees it. A new hole opened up right behind him. In between Mason
Goddamn,
walking
another
back
hole.
and finishing the castle repairs, there were no cuts in the video. No time for someone to dig this chunk out. This happened as Mason was online, just like we saw in episode 1. Probably frightened, Mason goes to investigate, looking around frantically, peering down the hole, and then we get this.
Shut up. What the fuck am I?
All of a sudden, all the leaves around Mason disappeared, leaving the trees bare just as we saw before. This is...
Bro, if I'm here, I feel like this shit. Not until like the half of the world is probably gone, and then I will probably notice it.
Terrifying.
Like, what
the
the hell?
world is disintegrating around Mason in real time.
What
But
just happened,
why?
though?
What's behind this disappearance, and why is it doing this? The description of this video doesn't tell us much, essentially exactly what we just saw unfold. However, we do learn that this castle is specifically Danny's and not Mason's. As for the rest of what's going on here, we're still very much in the dark.
Look at that cow.
3 is a bit strange. A new world begins with the generating title screen, but it seems cut up since right after supposedly generating the world, Mason, or whoever we're watching, already has pretty advanced items. So this world was definitely played through quite a bit between what we just saw.
Doesn't look
And
new,
at least from the
brother.
terrain we can see, it seems like a totally different world than what Mason was just showing us. Mason walks around for most of the video before planting a rose and looking out over a lake. This video also has a song playing in the background.
Isn't that the main theme of Minecraft? Aww.
C418's Danny. The video is simple but weird, and it seems very out of place. For one thing, why the cut between generating world and getting all of these items? It just doesn't make sense to me to cut out all the progress and only give us this. And for another, why the rose and the music? To me though, maybe this is simply meant to be Mason's single player world, a way to escape from the horrors happening in the world he shares with Danny. This is his peaceful reverie away from it all. But the next video is the polar opposite. It
God
seems
damn
that
it.
Mason is back on his and Danny's world, and he's
Whoa,
not
look
going
at the
down without a
flower,
fight.
though.
All the leaves near Mason's house are now gone, and he's not in a good mood about it. Mason punches a sheep and a
Damn.
chicken before walking to the back of his house and showing us a giant crevasse.
I
This
am
is the
so
biggest
mad.
hole
I'm gonna
we've seen
punch
before,
all the animals,
implying that the
honestly.
disintegration is only getting faster. In a rage, Mason slaughters
is
all
it?
the chickens perched by his base, almost as if he's fighting back against the world itself. And he
Not the
discovers
animals,
another
bro!
chunk with random holes. Holes
Hashtag
that seem to
save
go
animal
nowhere, as if
lives.
the chunk is preparing to be deleted. Enraged, Mason returns home, grabs TNT, and begins exploding the chunk over and over and over
Wait, he
again.
can
as
fly,
if he
bruh.
thinks that it's his
Wait, no, never
world
mind.
that's out to get him, and he's going to fight
I'm just
back
dumb.
by hurting the world itself. But his efforts are in vain, and after detonating almost all his TNT, Mason turns around to find that another chunk of the castle has been deleted right behind him. The world
Where?
is
I'm not
also
seeing
fighting
it.
back, and it's fighting harder. Mason drops his last TNT into the newly formed hole and returns,
I am
slaughtering
so
all the mobs outside once again, accidentally blowing up the house, and finally returning to bed in defeat. This is
And then I went to
It seems
bed.
like Mason has
Bruh.
a change of heart, since in the next video things are quite different. The video titled Repairs consists of Mason doing just that, repairs. The world around him has gotten even worse, but Mason doesn't seem to be mad anymore. Instead, he grabs a bunch of dirt and cobblestone and patches up both the castle and the holes he made in the last video, almost as if he's apologizing to the world for what he did last time. The description seems to confirm this. Mason is making amends with whatever supernatural force is haunting his game. I guess he's hoping that by apologizing, maybe it will just stop taking away land. Mason continues to patch up the castle, but as he brings in some ladders, we notice something odd. A chest. Mason doesn't open this chest, and it wasn't here earlier when Mason was rebuilding, meaning that he placed it sometime during this cut and what we see earlier on. But why? This is a bit of a weird mystery, and I'm still not really sure what this chest is meant to symbolize, but we can do some deduction to maybe figure out what he put inside. This is the last glimpse we get of Mason's inventory before the cut, and we can see that it looks pretty normal, nothing that weird. After the cut though, once we know the chest
Whoa,
is in
look at
place,
that!
Mason's inventory looks like this.
Looks like
pretty much everything
Steve
that
or-
was originally there is still there, besides the cobble that we know Mason used to rebuild the castle. In fact, there's only 2 items that were
The
lost
flower
across
is
the
gone.
cut. The chest, which obviously Mason
chest?
placed
Oh, the
inside,
chest.
and weirdly, the rose. Mason picks this rose 20 seconds into the video, and given that it's gone after the cut, we can assume that this is what he placed inside the chest. But if so, why? What's the significance in placing this rose inside of the chest? And honestly, we don't have any actual proof that that's really what he put in the chest. For all we know, he could have put nothing and just replanted or stored the rose somewhere else. Regardless, the rest of the video continues rather calmly. There are more repairs, and Mason goes to bed. By now, we can observe a pattern. Every video we've watched so far, with the exception of the odd New World one, has more and more chunks and leaves disappearing from Mason's world. Damn. He starts confused, tries to run away, tries to fight back, and finally tries to make amends, all to no avail. It just keeps getting worse for him. Throughout all of this, Mason sometimes rebuilds other chunks, but the one thing he keeps rebuilding is Danny's castle, and on the subject, we never once get to meet Danny himself.
Maybe
but
Danny
the cause
is
of the disintegration is still very unknown, and Mason isn't really talkative in any of these videos, so our only choice to solve this mystery is to keep watching. The next video, titled Border, is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. A border formed around the house and the castle. I don't know why, but it keeps getting worse, and I don't know what to do. Mason gives us a tour, and yeah, it's bad. A giant border of void chunks has now formed all around his house and nearby land. The terrain behind it seems to be okay, for now, but it's clear that this area Mason lives in is being isolated by the world around it. The entire video consists of Mason walking the perimeter, giving us a tour of the horrors taking over his world. At one point, something catches his eye. Cobblestone, a not naturally occurring block, and he heads down into the border to explore further. He comes across this weird wall-like structure and studies it for a minute, then leaves. Cobblestone usually implies man-made, but what this structure is very much beyond me. Though given the nearby presence of lava and obsidian, it could be just as easily that this structure was naturally generated when the terrain spliced or was dug out. We have no idea. As the tour continues, we find out that almost all the trees inside the perimeter have been stripped of their leaves, resulting in a very haunting and eerie skyline. This area of the world, specifically where Mason's house is being destroyed, which begs an interesting question. Why doesn't Mason just run? Why doesn't he just abandon this house or
log off
abandon
the
this
game,
world?
though?
I mean, typically, if this was your normal player, I don't know why on earth anyone would stay in this world when clearly something is very wrong with it. It just doesn't make sense to me why Mason is staying amidst all of this happening to him. When Mason does eventually return to his house, we can see that a chunk of land that was there before is now missing. More corruption, just as we're used to. Mason goes to sleep again, and this video ends. Things are only getting worse. More and more blocks keep disappearing, and it's clear that Mason is powerless to stop it, but the next video takes a very strange turn. But before we get to it, if you are enjoying the video, then please consider subscribing. I'm trying to reach 2 million subscribers by the end of the year, but a lot of people end up watching these videos through and never subscribe. So if you do enjoy these videos and want to see more just like them, subscribing is the best way to tell me that and support the channel. But thank you so much, and let's get back to Mason. The next video, Calm, is exactly that. Mason is just playing Minecraft. No chunks disappear, nothing weird ever happens. It's just 5 minutes of peace. Except, well, there is one thing. Actually, two things. For one thing, 55 seconds into this video, music starts to play.
Okay.
Every other video we see on this channel up to this point has had no music. That is, every video but one. A New World. In fact, this is the same song that plays in that video as well. Why that song is present in
the song's name is Daddy?
Is unknown, but this video hides a far darker second secret. Searching in the captions of this video, 2 minutes in, we get a random string. This string is a YouTube URL. Adding the correct prefix takes us to an unlisted video on Mason's channel. Escaping to Hell? It's pretty clear that this video takes place after everything we've already seen so far, as Mason's tools have gotten better and the chunks are far worse. Mason heads to grab obsidian from his chests and constructs a portal in front of his house, but when he enters, we get this. This is extremely surreal. It seems from the fog all of a sudden we've entered a different different version of Minecraft. The text in the
Different
top
version?
left
Are we
is
for real?
gone, and all of a sudden Mason is in creative without any of his items. But of course, let's not ignore the elephant in the room,
I am
that this is
ignoring it.
not the Nether. Instead, there is only a road,
Silent
a
Hill,
seemingly infinite extending
know.
street that Mason spawns in on. Mason walks through this eerie dimension
What
until
the
he
hell is
stumbles
that?
across what looks like very poorly built traffic lights. Looking over the crossroad, he continues straight until he sees it.
Shut
a block
up.
on the road. Then another,
Why is
then
he-
another, and then stairs, and finally glass
up.
panes. Mason freezes, staring
hell
for
is
a
a
few
glass
seconds before quickly
Oh.
turning back and running through the portal back to the overworld. On the other side, he
How
has his
about you
items
log
again,
off
we're back to
instead,
normal,
to be
and he tears down the
honest?
portal. And in the corner of his vision, we can see that
Stop.
part of the castle
Oh,
has been
okay.
destroyed yet again. What
gonna get
in the
mad
world
again.
did we just
God
watch?
damn
This
it!
is no longer normal. Not that it ever was, but even this is out of place for this
We
YouTube
went to
channel.
the
Given how
other
he was looking
world,
around,
like
it
in
seems
Silent
like
Hill.
Mason didn't build this, but still, what on earth? I don't really know what to tell you. All we can really do is go into the next video where things have somehow gotten even worse. Mason is moving house, and at first it isn't really clear why, but as he looks up, we can see exactly the reason. Half his house was just vaporized by one of the chunk errors, but it isn't just his
Got
house.
pulled
As
out.
Mason looks around, we can see
That's
that
what it
any
is.
land past the border is now gone. The chunks in the distance are completely removed, and it appears that all that is left of Mason and Danny's world are the chunks we can see around us. The corruption has spread deep now, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. Slowly but steadily, Mason moves all of his stuff into Danny's castle, chest by chest, item by item.
I feel like
Interestingly, he still doesn't
Danny's
address the
long
chest he
gone or
placed in the
something.
castle basement, but as he's relocating the last of his torches, we can see it. His house
am
has
not seeing
fully
shit.
vanished, gone into the void, and nothing but the final back
Damn.
wall giving any sign that it ever existed in the first place. Mason looks at it for
My
a few more
house is
seconds
gone.
before curiosity, or maybe longing, gets the best of him, and he goes to say goodbye one last time. He visits the pit that was once his old home and takes it all
Aw.
in, staring longingly into the void
Aw.
before turning to watch the sunset. He stays like this for a while before finally heading home to the castle and sleeping
Why did
once
he
again.
throw
At this
that,
point, it's
though?
pretty clear that Mason feels powerless against whatever is taking control over his world. The haunting does not seem to be slowing down, and day by day,
haunting.
more and more blocks are being removed from the world. It's only a matter of time until nothing is left of this world, but we're too far in to stop watching now. We have to see this story through and find out what's really going on here. It's time for the next video, Hope. The video begins with a stark contrast to last time. Danny's castle is now
feel like
seemingly
this
the
is the
only
Silent
chunk
Hill
left of this
element. I
world,
feel- I
with
swear to
Mason
God.
taking shelter within its walls. We can only guess
What
that there
happened
isn't
to
much
the whole
time
world,
left
bruh?
before the world deletes this chunk too once and for all.
Damn.
From the various cobblestone bridges spanning out into the void, we can guess that Mason was bridging outwards in hopes of finding something, anything that
Damn.
still exists out there, but apparently it was to no avail. His render distance has decreased, and we watch as he gathers blocks for one final expedition out towards the left, but this time he finds something. Somehow, in the distance, Mason catches sight of a chunk that still exists, a chunk that for some unknown reason hasn't been deleted. Why? Why has this chunk survived the disintegration when nothing else did? Regardless, Mason can't believe his eyes, running back to get more blocks to finish his bridge before finally climbing over the edge to admire the intact chunk. It seems like he still can't believe his eyes. Something still exists. There's still hope
There's
in
a
saving this world if he can figure out what's special about this chunk. He tries
about
bridging
that? I
out
don't
more,
even
but
know.
changes his mind, going to mine the tree before again changing his mind and replanting
I wonder if
the
he
wood.
jumps,
It seems
though.
that he doesn't want to
Will he
cause
die
any
or something?
damage to this chunk, to savor it as the final remains
Or
of
is it
his
just
world.
water?
He climbs up to the highest
Like the
point
ones in
before
the
being
hole.
transfixed by the dandelion. He then rushes back to his base and brings over food and a chest. Mason quickly kills the animals that have spawned in the new chunk and then makes some
Kill
sort of odd
animals,
sacrifice or prayer to the chunk. I'm not really sure what he's getting at, but he fills a chest with items before giving yet another offering. This video takes
Damn,
a weird
okay.
turn, and it's seems like Mason is trying to use this chunk as a way to save his world. If he
Bro,
can figure out what makes this chunk special, then maybe he thinks he can bring his world back. As for what does make this chunk special, I'm not really sure. I don't know why this is the one chunk that survived in the void, but I did find something rather interesting. If we trace back to the very first video, remember the weird tree with a missing block that Mason filled in? Well, we can actually line up this shot of the tree with the tree on the surviving chunk, and this shot of the flower confirms it. This is the same tree, the same chunk that Mason interfered with in the first episode. Whether that actually means something or is just a pure coincidence is up for debate, but it seems a bit too good to be true. Either way though, it doesn't really tell us why this was the chunk that survived the deletion. It's hard to believe Mason did nothing in any other chunk. The video though gives us some more information. The video is titled Amekania, which after looking it up is the name of the Greek goddess of helplessness. If that doesn't clue you into what's to come, well, you'll see. The video starts with Mason on the bridge back to the castle, returning from the surviving chunk. Given the amount of food he pulls out of his chest back home, it seems like he's going to make another offering. Before he does though, Mason begins tearing down his other bridges before finally heading back to the surviving chunk. But when he returns to it, it's gone. The chunk has vanished. The blocks Mason placed are still there, but the chunk itself is totally gone. Deleted. Clearly, Mason's bargaining wasn't enough. The offerings weren't received. This world clearly isn't done taking things from Mason. Mason, now utterly defeated, looks around helpless, hopeless, as his dreams of saving this world were crushed right before his eyes. He dumps his offering into the void before tearing down this final bridge. There's nowhere else for him to go. Mason heads back to the base and in one quick motion breaks his chest of cobblestone and takes it all with him. He waits outside, watching as day turns to night before turning to the void and throwing his cobblestone in. Block by block, stack by stack, Mason throws his building blocks into the void until there's only one stack left. And he gets rid of that one too. The meaning is obvious. Mason has lost hope. He's given up on bridging anywhere else and escaping this castle in the sky. There's just nowhere for him to go anymore. That surviving chunk was his last thread of hope, and now it's gone. Mason is fully helpless. But as he drops the final stack, he looks up. A tree has just grown. He stares at it for a little before heading to bed and ending the video. This video is a journey of Mason, hopeful about his potential savior, to losing it in the blink of an eye, giving up all hope before once again, for a moment, seeming like he isn't going to give up. It's genuinely just sad to watch, but it still doesn't answer what's causing all of this in Mason's world. Why is it that the castle hasn't been deleted yet when everything else has? Why did that other chunk take so long to delete? And still, what in the world was the meaning of that Nether episode? It just doesn't add up. But there's only one video left in the series, so if there's ever been a time for answers, it's now. Acceptance begins with Mason heading out of the castle, and we see something interesting. More saplings have been planted. It seems like that tree growing in the last video must have sparked something inside of Mason, because now he looks like he hasn't given up on escaping this void yet. He turns and notices a gap in his fence before going up to fix it, after which he heads back down to look into the void. But suddenly, something switches. Mason runs back inside and grabs his shovel before immediately returning, and after a few moments of hesitation, he begins to destroy. Mason breaks all his saplings before returning to the only remaining corner of this island and digging. Without stopping, he digs the tunnel all the way to the bottom of the void and then back up, but he doesn't stop there. Mason uproots his entire island, mining all of the dirt before starting to destroy the castle too. No blocks are spared, and Mason continues to dig more and more, breaking the entire tower before moving on to the next one. Soon, the entire top half of the second tower is also gone, and Mason pauses, only to then throw his armor into the void as well. He continues to tear down the walls, block after block after block, until all that's left of the entire world is the chest. Mason goes into F5 and looks around, surveying the void around him and watching the clouds, seemingly at peace for the first time in ages, before looking down, breaking the chest, and falling into the void. And that's the end of the series. There are no videos left and seemingly no answer of what comes next, what this all means, and why this happened to Mason. All we're left with is a strange, cryptic, and incoherent set of videos.
Yeah, it's
but I
like
do
5
think
stages
there
of
is
grief.
a story here. What we're watching isn't
But
meant
like
to
he
be
ends
a
up killing
surface level
himself. Just joking.
playthrough
Maybe
of a
that's
strange
a
situation. It's a showcase
that's
of
a
a
metaphor
human being
of
going through the
moving
5
on.
stages of
I knew it!
Since he was mentioned in the description of the first
Brother, what do you
episode, Danny
mean?
hasn't made
So,
a
I feel
single
like-
appearance
Guys,
in
I feel
any
like
of
Danny's
this
long gone.
was his castle,
and he's
his
trying to
world with
preserve-
Mason, but we never see or hear
preserve
of
his,
Danny.
like,
But
Danny's
isn't it
castle, because
strange
he
that
always
the
keeps
only
on, like,
chunk that
creating-
Mason keeps
recreating it.
repairing in this whole series is Danny's castle, not even his own home? Isn't it strange that Mason never leaves this world like any normal player would? I mean, if this happened to you, why would you ever keep playing? Unless this world meant something more to you. Unless this world was the only memory of someone you had lost. And if that was true, wouldn't your first priority be to keep whatever they made intact, to fight back and preserve their memory? The channel
Why
Knights
why is it gonna delete
a
itself?
story
I mean,
of
why is it
Mason going
deleting
through
itself,
denial,
though?
continuing to play in his world as if nothing was wrong, writing it off as a glitch or a bug. Anger, lashing out against the mobs, blowing up his world and dropping lava into the void to fight back against the disappearances. Bargaining by trying to make amends and pleading with the only thing that he had left to somehow bring his world back, to preserve his memories and keep them alive. Depression, giving up on ever making it out and throwing away all that he had left before finally acceptance. Not letting the world take Danny's castle from him, but instead tearing it down himself. Understanding that he can't hold on to the past. Holding on to this world won't bring Danny back. Nothing will. The only thing he can do to heal his wounds is to accept that Danny is gone. And I'll do you one better. The enlisted video, Escaping to Hell, that's Mason telling us that his hell isn't the Nether. It's remembering what happened to Danny, which I can only suspect must have been some sort of accident. Whether Danny was a friend, a brother, or something more, he's gone, and Mason has to accept it. But that's not where this story ends. Because what if I told you that these videos weren't in order and you've already seen how this story
searching
ends
the new
for
world
Mason?
is the new
Because
world
what comes
thingy.
after acceptance? Well, it's
Moving on,
only
bruh.
then that you can truly heal and begin a new world. I mean, don't believe me, just pay attention to the inventories. In fact, the only item that's
the hell?
different in Danny's
do that?
inventory right before and after the fall is the one item that we suspected he put in the chest all those episodes ago. The rose. The one fragment left of a Minecraft world that destroyed itself.
Damn. He pulled up the fucking music? God damn, okay. Aww, what the hell? Yeah. The fuck, bro? That's kinda cool. Aww. Mason! Aw, Mason! So we can why is it me? So we can kind of get that Danny's no longer here. Oh, that's so nice, actually.